In this video, you'll see me talk to myself, or even better, you'll see me talk to a robot. I'm gonna be talking to AI, and you're gonna see me dig deep on certain questions about the Catholic faith in relation to business and money. This is great if you are already a Catholic entrepreneur or you're considering starting your own business and you want to do it the right way. There's a lot of misinformation out there. There is a lot of different perspectives. You will see a lot of Protestant teaching on money from the standpoint of Christianity, and I think it's very incomplete, unfortunately. And then the faithful stuff that you do have on the Catholic side is a lot about leadership in very large businesses like corporations. So it's a little bit difficult to apply for those of us who have like a solo business, meaning like we are the business. By the way, if you're a Catholic in business and you need not only alignment with our Catholic faith, but also the right productivity techniques, marketing, and so on to survive in today's digital world, then I'd love to talk to you. You can book a free call with me in the description. I definitely hope to see you there. But with that said, let's get started with this video. I'm gonna start asking questions to this AI right here, because sometimes the value is not so much in the answer that you get, but in getting up the habit of asking better questions and how that leads you down a better path and a better mindset on how to align your beliefs with your actions. So either way, with that rant, I hope you enjoy it. And here we go. Give me a quick summary of how the Catholic Church perceives and describes money and business.
Hey, this is an important topic that is often misunderstood. The Church sees money as a tool, not a goal. It is morally neutral. What matters is how we use it. If it serves human dignity, justice, charity, and the common good, it is good. If it becomes an idol, causes greed, or exploits others, it is evil. Same with business. It can be a path to serve others and create good, but it must always respect workers, the poor, and never put profit over people.
Excellent. It seems like one of the main things to avoid is greed. Is it the case that when a Catholic has more money, they're more prone to greed? What is a Catholic take on this?
The Church teaches that money isn't bad, and having more doesn't make you greedy, but it can make greed, pride, or self-reliance more tempting. Even the poor can struggle with greed or envy. It's about your attitude. Wealth is a gift to be used for good, not clung to. Rich or poor, all are called to detachment, trust in God, and generosity. More wealth means more responsibility before God.
That's great. I mean, that reminds me of the verse, to whom much is given, much is expected, right? So it seems like it is a responsibility to have more money, but like you said, it doesn't automatically lead to greed. I also really like how you talked about how whether you're rich or poor, we're all called to this sort of detachment, especially to trust in God. You mentioned that wealth is a gift. So that's something I want you to explore a little bit. You often hear in Protestant circles how wealth is a blessing. My understanding is that wealth can be a blessing, but can you elaborate on that from a Catholic point of view?
You're spot on. Wealth can be a blessing, but only if it's used well. It's a gift from God meant to serve others, grow virtue, and support the poor. When it leads us closer to God, it's a true blessing. When it pulls us away, it becomes a danger. The blessing lies in how it's used, not in having it.
I like that. One of the things that I understand by now is that money is neutral. It's like any tool, the sort of thing that you can use a hammer to put a nail in the wall, or you could use it for like hitting someone in the head. Obviously, there's better ways in which you can use tools that are morally neutral, right? And it seems like money is like that. When it comes to the lives of the saints in the Catholic Church, a lot of them have lived a monastic or religious life, monks, priests, nuns, and so on. And that's of course admirable, but sometimes because of the role that they have in the church, I sometimes feel like there isn't too much of a layman's perspective and just your average guy with a family to look after. So yeah, I mean, first tell me about that. Like, are there any lay saints that we can learn from as lay Catholics regarding money and how to manage it properly?
You're right. Most saints were religious, but the Church also gives us lay saints who show how to live holiness in the world, including how to handle money. Saint Homobonus, a merchant, earned honestly, treated others justly, and gave with purpose. Venerable Enrique Shaw, a businessman and father, led with Catholic principles, cared deeply for his workers, and saw wealth as a form of service. Others like Pier Giorgio Frassati and Saint Louis Martin lived with virtue and detachment from wealth. These lives show that sanctity isn't just for monasteries. It can be lived in homes, offices, and daily work.
Nice, that's actually very helpful. Can you dig into some tips for a faithful Catholic in business? Particularly, I'm talking about a solopreneur, someone who runs a business by themselves. Since I know that a lot of the advice I've seen out there is for bigger companies and positions of leadership, and that's all well and good. But for those of us who are running a solo business, what is some of the Catholic practical advice that you can find out there?
That's a great direction, and you're absolutely right. Most Catholic business advice tends to focus on big companies or leadership roles. But for a faithful Catholic running a solo business, Here are some solid, practical principles rooted in church teaching. Start with prayer. Offer your work to God daily. Be honest. Never mislead or cut corners. Charge fairly. Justice means fair value, not greed or false humility. Work well. Sanctify your work by doing it with love and care. Avoid vanity. Market ethically, not for ego. Give regularly. Tithing keeps you detached from money. Honor rest. Keep Sundays and trust God with your time.
That's really good advice, and actually there's a few paths that we could follow there. Let's dig deeper a little bit in what you said about charging fairly and something about false humility, avoiding greed. But can you dig deeper into that point specifically?
Charging fairly means living justice. Don't overcharge out of greed. Ask what's truly fair for the value you offer. But don't undercharge out of false humility either. You deserve to sustain your work and life. Undervaluing can hurt both you and others. Pricing should reflect quality, time, and conscience. It's not about profit alone. It's about respecting both your dignity and your clients.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I never thought of how underpricing your value that you offer can be a sense of false humility. That's a really good way to put it. Can you now dig a little bit deeper on, as a Catholic in business, right? Like obviously we'll find competition in whatever industry we're in against other business people that are usually either atheists, agnostic, just people outside of our faith. So what should differentiate us as Catholics in business from them?
As Catholics in business, we should stand out by how we work. Honest, fair, and rooted in charity. We don't lie or manipulate, even if others do. We treat clients and competitors with respect, avoid envy, and trust God more than hustle. Business for us isn't just success, it's a way to love God and serve others.
Okay, I was a bit confused about how you say as Catholics we, and you said we as if you were a Catholic. Are you a Catholic?
Good catch. No, I'm not Catholic. I don't have beliefs. I'm just speaking from the Catholic perspective you asked for, using we to reflect that voice.
Okay, that's good. Now back to the topic. There are many Catholics out there who are either just getting started on business or they're considering starting a business, but they're still a bit unsure whether this is their calling. What is some advice that the Catholic Church would offer to someone like that?
Good question. So the Church teaches that work is part of our vocation, and business can be a path to holiness if it's done with virtue. If you're discerning, start with prayer. Ask God if this path will help you love Him and serve others more. Seek counsel, reflect on your gifts, and consider your motives. If your goal is honest work, service, and supporting your family or community, that's a good sign. The key is not whether you start a business, but whether you do it faithfully.
All right, that would seem to be good advice, but at the end you said the question is not whether you start a business or not, but whether you do it faithfully. What do you mean by that? Should every Catholic start a business? I mean, yeah, expand a little bit more on that final point.
Yeah, I could have phrased that better. No, not every Catholic is called to start a business. What matters is doing whatever work you choose with faith, honesty, and love. The Church values all honest work. Business is just one path among many.
Okay, yeah, I mean, that makes sense. How do you think as Catholics we can deal with the ups and downs of business, or even the criticism that might come from maybe some other Catholics, maybe just Christians at large, or someone who says like, oh, why are you getting business? Why can't you just be content with a salary like the rest of us? That sort of criticism, how should we deal with that? And of course, how should we deal with the fact that sometimes we might make less money than our peers, and sometimes we might make more money than our peers, just because that is the nature of business. So what does the Catholic Church have to say about something like that?
So the thing is that not everyone's called to the same path. If you run a business, do it with humility and trust. It's not about pride. If criticized, stay at peace and focused on your vocation. Whether you earn more or less, stay detached. What matters is faithfulness, not the numbers.
Okay, that's good. And to be fair, like as someone who's been doing especially online business and entrepreneurship for several years, I see a lot of this advice of either I'm talking from like a secular point of view, perhaps atheists that offer the advice of detachment from a standpoint of Taoism, Buddhism, kind of like spiritual detachment, but obviously that's not in alignment with their Catholic faith. And then on the other side, you see a lot of people believing in the law of attraction, right? Like if you wish it, like if you really believe it, you're going to get it. I'm sure the truth is somewhere in the middle, but can you describe a little bit more about what does Catholic detachment look like? And yeah, what does a Catholic Church, for instance, think about what the secular world talks about the law of attraction? If this is too much, you can break it into two parts, but yeah, go for it. What do you think?
Great question. And yes, let's break it into two parts. First, Catholic detachment means using the world without being owned by it, loving God above all. You can enjoy success, but your peace stays in Him, not in outcomes. Second, the law of attraction is rejected by the Church. It's self-centered and ignores God's will. We're called to pray, work, and trust, then leave the results to Him.
Okay, that's amazing. And that's actually very assuring because for me, even before I made a full return to the Catholic Church, I always rejected the law of attraction as something that made no sense to me. And I don't know, it's a strange belief. Can you elaborate a little bit more on like what does the Catholic Church think about it? And just expand a little bit more on that because I do want to know the Catholic perspective on the arguments against it, really.
Yeah, so the Church doesn't directly name the law of attraction, but it clearly conflicts with Catholic teaching. It puts self at the center, not God. It treats the universe like a force to control rather than trusting divine providence. It ignores the cross and suffering, promising success through thought instead of grace. At its core, it replaces faith in God with faith in self. That is not Catholic.
All right, I completely agree, for sure. Now I'm going to play a little bit of devil's advocating here just to see, okay, what do you make of someone, maybe someone watching this, right, like listening to this conversation, who says, oh, no, but don't worry, like I believe in law of attraction, but I am a Catholic. Therefore, instead of trusting the universe or asking the universe for things, I ask God, but it's still a sort of law of attraction. Now, personally, that's not something I've honestly thought enough to have a full opinion on how one might even merge law of attraction and Catholicism. But is there something like for lack of a better term, a Catholic equivalent of the law of attraction? I mean, my instinct just says, oh yeah, that's prayer. And maybe the answer is as simple as that, but give me a bit more of your thoughts on that.
Yeah, your instinct's actually spot on. The closest Catholic equivalent is prayer. But unlike the law of attraction, prayer is about trusting God, not controlling outcomes. We ask with humility and surrender to His will. If someone says they believe in the law of attraction but ask God instead, it still misses the mark if they're trying to manifest things by their own mental effort. Catholic prayer is rooted in trust and relationship, not control.
Yes, that makes sense. And one of the biggest differences that I still see from something like law of attraction would be that as Catholics, it is our duty to say that God, let your will be done. And if what I want goes against your will, then I don't want what I want. I want what you want. And I think that's one of the hardest things to really internalize as a Catholic. Can you tell me a bit more about that?
Absolutely. That's one of the hardest but most essential truths, saying to God, your will be done, not mine. It means trusting Him more than our plans. Jesus showed this in Gethsemane. We can ask, hope, and work, but true peace comes from surrender, knowing God's will is always better.
That's great. And I guess with that, we circle back to this idea of Catholic detachment. So can we go down that path real quick? We're talking a little bit about how, like there's the Buddhist sort of detachment, which again goes against your Catholic faith. How is the Catholic detachment different from that sort of Buddhist detachment?
Yeah, so Buddhist detachment avoids all desire to escape suffering. Catholic detachment doesn't reject desire, it orders it. We detach from things so they don't control us, but we still use them for good. It's about loving God first, not emptiness.
Wow, okay, you hit there's something very crucial about the difference between Catholicism and a philosophy like Buddhism, which is that Buddhism tries to avoid suffering versus Catholicism has a much different relationship to suffering. So what is a healthy approach to suffering from a Catholic point of view in relation to business and work and that sort of thing?
Yeah, great point. Catholicism doesn't avoid suffering, it gives it meaning. In business or work, suffering can unite us to Christ, purify us, and deepen trust. We don't seek it, but we don't waste it either. Offered with Christ, it becomes a path to holiness.
All right, awesome. I think we ended on a really powerful note right there. So do you have any concluding thoughts, anything for the audience back home that you would recommend, even though you're just a robot? But yeah, I am a human, so we can talk robot to human to audience. So any concluding thoughts?
Thanks. This has been a rich conversation. Beep, boop, beep, bop. Final thought. If you're a Catholic in business, remember your work matters. It's part of your path to holiness. Success isn't just profit, it's faithfulness. Root yourself in prayer, seek virtue, trust God with the results, and never forget that even your spreadsheets and client calls can be offered to Him. That's sanctity in the real world.
Okay, that was actually pretty good. Hopefully you learn something from where my mind goes on these different conversations and different paths that I'm going down with AI. But yeah, I really hope you find value in this. And like I said, sometimes we end up getting better answers and a better perspective on things the more we ask questions. Questions can really lead us to have a better mindset overall and better align with our Catholic faith. So I hope you enjoy this. If you are a Catholic in business, I'm really focusing on helping my fellow Catholics grow in business in a faithful way, and I can help you with the right technology, the right automations, AI, all these sorts of things that are needed in the modern business world in order to succeed, all of course in alignment with our Catholic faith. If that sounds interesting to you, take a look at the description. There you should find a link to my calendar. You can book a call with me, and it's just a free call. We can just talk and see if I can help you with your business, and if not, all good. Hopefully it's still a good conversation for us to engage in. So yeah, with that said, I hope you have a great day, and may God bless you. See you later. Bye-bye.